Thanks, Gary. Thank you. Well, again, I'd just like to welcome everyone, but this time on behalf of the Canadian Small Business Institute. I've been working with the Small Business Institute now coming on for about 13, 14 years. I assisted the founder, Richard J. Stacey. Some of you might know of him. You might have heard of him. He is a well-known speaker. More importantly, you probably bought products from his company without even realizing it. Those of you who watch late-night television or on weekends, there's a company called Northern Response that is responsible for marketing about 60 to 70% of the infomercials today in Canada. But Richard Stacey and myself founded the Institute back in 1979. And the initial mandate of the Institute was really founded to help foster and encourage entrepreneurship and really to help Canadians. But we're living in an international economy, and growth as it leads to us. We now have international offices or affiliate offices in the United States, Europe, and the Far East. But the Institute it consists of 3 or 4 divisions. Again, we do have a small business division working in parallel, I guess, with sort of like government organizations. But we try to provide more hands-on, realistic life experience, really on the sort of nuts and bolts of starting a business. At the same time, there are government self-help offices that can lend you services and resources if you want to know where to register or what have you. But if you want to sort of learn how to market, where to obtain financing, specific areas in marketing or what have you, we do offer services to the general public, but we do offer also separately a membership that provides an ongoing support. It's a lifetime membership, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on the end. Today, I'm proud to say that we have well over 50,000 members since we started the Institute. Internationally, we've got about another 10,000. But the other divisions that might be of interest for some of you, starting a business may not necessarily be for all of you, but what we're really looking for in many cases is a lifestyle, certain financial goals or what have you there. So there are other ways you can achieve wealth without really starting a business. One obvious way is simply buying into an existing business or investing to other opportunities by becoming a shareholder or what have you there. Investments, again, is a very common way. Many of you probably have already bought RSPs or mutual funds. It's not a fast way to get rich, but it is a proven way. And probably for most of us who are conservative, still like what you're doing or what have you, that might be a way to make money as well. We do have a separate real estate division. It's been pretty flat the last couple of years, but if you are interested in investing in real estate, no question, some of the wealthiest people today in North America has made their money from real estate. So we do offer seminars, training in this area on how to make money in real estate. But the one I'm here to talk about this evening is on import-export. There's a division called Wade World Trade. Some of you might have seen in various publications, magazines, or newspapers our advertising. But Wade, for those of you who don't know Wade, it's one of the oldest organizations. It was founded in 1949 in the UK by Wade himself. He's actually a lord in England. And it's taken transition over the years, a number of ownership or what have you there. But we've been representing Wade in Canada coming on to about 15 years now. And Wade, just like the Small Business Institute, is an educational organization, but specifically helping people learn and understand the logistics of international trade. As well, they teach people about direct marketing. So today's workshop really ties in very well with what Wade provides in terms of support. In no way do we endorse any products. We won't tell you what business to get into or what have you. But today what I will share with you, some of the steps for those of you who are looking to get started, where to find products if you don't have one. But really it gets the nuts and bolts for many of you who don't know exactly how to initiate a deal for international trade. Because a lot of people mistake when we talk about import-export, is it a business or is it an activity? Because at the end, in any business, you're looking to find a product and a customer. Now, where you find a product is what we're going to talk about today. For most retailers, wholesalers, they simply buy their goods from a local wholesaler, possibly from an importer. What I'm talking about this evening is possibly locating the manufacturer. And it could be here in Canada, and the opposite is representing a manufacturer for overseas. But in most cases, you're probably more comfortably selling products here in Canada than to market a product overseas. It can be quite challenging unless you most of your adult life you spent elsewhere, so you already have very strong contacts or relationships established overseas. But in many cases, you probably know the market here in Toronto, Ontario, or Canada much better, knowing where the head office of various buyers or what have you for your products would be. So what I'm going to talk about, and the emphasis will really be more on the import side today. And again, the government provides all kinds of helpful information on export. So just apply the opposite for many of you who are looking to get involved with export. But I really believe you'll make a more success of importing than in export. But really, it's the understanding the logistics of how you go about locating products, how you protect yourself if you're going to open up payment or what have you there. The second portion of the workshop this evening will be related to mail order and direct marketing. And again, just like import-export, although it's a business, it's more a vehicle for marketing products. Because just like I try to relate with you importing, again, it's just how you bring the product in. There are freight forwarders who do nothing but handle shipments, and that's really what a lot of people think importing is. But the ultimate goal of importing is to find a buyer for your products. And similar like mail order, it's just a vehicle for marketing your products, although people relate it as an actual business because they're taking orders by orders coming through the mail. And I'll sort of talk about the internet because it sort of lends its way to this form of marketing as well. So to get started, again, we're going to probably take a short 5-10 minute breaks at the halfway point, which hopefully will be around 8 o'clock. Again, I'll answer any questions that you might have specific to what we're talking about. Anything that you might have that you're working on the side, I ask you to hold those type of questions during the break. And at the same time, I'll stay for as long as it takes to answer your own personal questions. But let's try to stay on the same track of tonight's topic. And if you need clarification on what I'm talking about, again, please don't hesitate to ask me those questions. So the first thing to getting started, I guess, in choosing a business, most people, as you know, we've actually researched, and there's about, I guess, 6 or 7 ways of getting into a business. And you have to decide yourself what's best suited for you. Again, just last month, there was a franchise show being held at International Center. And if you attended this type of function, there was probably about 80 to 100 different franchises and what we call business opportunities. In many cases, these are what we call turnkey opportunities. Now, the only downfall to this type of opportunity is it usually takes an investment, and substantial in many cases. And the higher the investment, probably the better and more likely degree of success you're going to see from that. Another way of getting into business is simply buying into an existing business. So forget about starting from scratch, whether it's a franchise or what have you. Buying into an existing business, the advantage here is you've got immediate financing from the vendor or the previous owner, or in many cases with the bank who is prepared to finance an existing operation, where they'll never look at a startup type of opportunity. But you've got cash coming in from day one. So if you're looking for, again, a way of getting into a business, this might be an alternative. Some other ways of getting into a business is looking at possibly a retail type of operation. Now is probably the time to get into retail. We were just coming out of the recession. There are key locations that are available. In most cases, that what determines the success of a retail opportunity is your location. Again, there are many vacant plazas, malls, or what have you, that are a key anchor to draw people to your store. The problem with retail, again, until people come to your store, they don't even really know what you're selling in many cases. So location does play a key part. You can probably negotiate a very favorable lease because of the economic conditions still that we're operating under. Service. Most likely, those of you who start a business, and this is just looking at the last 5-10 years of growth, where the business opportunities are are coming about, is in the service industry. Most of us probably don't have the money to spend $50,000, $100,000 on inventory for manufacturing or a retail type of opportunity. But we do have certain skills that people will pay for, whether it's information or a service or what have you there. And it could be as simple as maybe a hair care type of opportunity, maybe mechanic, you might be a consultant in various fields, whether it's in the professional industry or in the trade type of industry. But it's a very real way and a low-cost way of getting into your own business there. So these are some ways that you may want to look at beyond the opportunity that we talk about. And what I like about this opportunity compared to the ones I just sort of mentioned is that it does have advantages that you would not normally see in a typical, what I classify in a typical business. The first one is that you can start without an idea or a product. Again, with a franchise, they'll give you the idea, they'll give you the concept, and all you have to do is apply your time and a little bit of money. What I'm going to do is show you how to come up with some ideas, but there are more products out there than the need to come up with new ideas in many cases, and I'll share with you why I believe that. You can start part-time. Most of us are not in a position just to quit our job, wait a year for the money to come in, because you have to be able to carry yourself minimum 6 months to a year before you start realizing and drawing a salary or income from your business there. You can't just take the profits right out from day one. So in this type of opportunity, when I talk about international trade in the mailer type of opportunity, you don't necessarily have to quit your job. The advantage here is international trade, they don't expect you to respond 5 minutes once they leave the message for you on your voicemail or what have you. Similar with mail order. When a customer places an order today, they'll fax an order, they'll send in a check, and they expect anywhere from a week to 2 weeks for you to process the order and to ship the product to them or what have you there. So while you're working during the day, in the evening, on the weekends, you can pick up your orders, process them, and out goes the order. I'll talk about fulfillment houses. In many cases, all you do is generate the label, fax it to these fulfillment houses. Not only do they take the order for you, but they'll ship the product right for you as well. So without quitting your job, there is a way to work into this type of opportunity. And it's a very real way of getting into a business there. There's less money required. In most cases, what you really are, when I talk about import-export in mail order in the early stages, is a middleman. You're simply bringing a buyer and a seller together. I'll talk about drop shipping a little later on in the segment there, but there are a lot of manufacturers out today who have excess inventory, or they have inventory just sitting on the floor there. And if you can work on an agreement with them where all you do is simply act as their agent, as a representative for their product, say in Canada or in an area that they're currently not marketing, they will agree that if you send them the orders, they'll give you certain rights to this form of distribution, but you don't actually have to invest into inventory. Once you give them the order, they will actually ship the product directly to your customers. And this will save a lot of money being tied up in inventory, and you can use this money more towards marketing. And that's really a key when I talk about advertising a little later on. Again, you can start with less money in this type of activity than say a manufacturing or a retail where you have to buy inventory because your customers are right there in your store. No debt. You can start from your home. Again, there's all this talk about home-based business opportunities or what have you. But when you really look around, you can't really run an automotive shop out of your home or a hairdressing salon or what have you there, because you have to be in I guess in a traffic volume location or what have you there. And you're also trying to create a certain image for your business there. But in import-export and mail order, it really doesn't matter where you live and where you operate your business. Again, with all the electronic tools that are available today, there are also fronts that are available, like mail forwarding addresses, mail, etc., mail boxes, etc. One of the more successful franchises, they do nothing but cater to small business entrepreneurs who need a profile address. And those of you who live in a smaller town outside of Toronto, like Maple or Orangeville or Whitby or what have you. Now, for us in Toronto, we know where these towns are. But people in Vancouver, let alone in the US or in Europe, will have never heard of these small towns. But they will have heard of a city like Toronto. I mean, it's a major city worldwide that's recognized. So if you are getting involved with mail order and international trade, a serious consideration is getting an international address of a major city, whether it's here in Toronto. Even if you live in Toronto, you may decide to use your address as a Vancouver if your main market, say, is in the Far East. Vancouver is better known to people in the Far East than Toronto in many cases there. So again, it's something that you may want to consider. But here, it doesn't really matter where you're operating. Where in other traditional businesses, no question you have to have an office in an ivory tower in order to reflect your professional service or what have you there. And bottom line here is you're going to make just as much, if not more, in this type of activity than if you were to get into a traditional business, as I mentioned earlier there. And I can go sort of on and on, but at the end, you have to sort of decide what business is best suited for you. What's good, and I hope you take note here, even if you don't get into import-export, you may want to apply this information I'm sharing with you to a retail, to a service business there, because there are certain products that you will constantly sell on a regular basis. In sales, we have a saying that 80% of your sales come from 20% of your products or your accounts there. And if you know you're selling this product day in, day out, and you're currently buying your product from a local wholesaler or an importer, why not now look at maybe buying directly from the manufacturer?